You know, people like to say, all's well that ends well, but who really decides what's well anyway? Take my situation for example. I found out my wife wasn't exactly faithful, so I kicked her out and figured I'd be better off without her. Should have been a happy ending for me, right? So why do I still feel downright miserable? Let me back up a bit. About 6 months ago, I married my secretary. Honestly, I'll admit, I hired Hillary for all the wrong reasons. The day she showed up for her interview, I barely got a word out before I was sure I wanted her around. She walked into my office, tall, about 5'9", with a figure that honestly took my breath away. Later, I'd find out her exact measurements, but at that moment, all I could think about was how she looked. She had this sweet, angelic face and long blonde hair that hung halfway down her back. When she sat across from me and crossed those long legs, the only real question on my mind was, when can you start? Of course, I went through the motions. I asked about her typing speed, how good her shorthand was, and if she knew her way around the computer programs we used. Truth be told, I don't remember a single answer she gave. I was set on hiring her no matter what. Turns out, she was actually great at her job, could type like lightning, take dictation, and work the computer like a pro. 9 months after that first day, we were married. But just half a year into our marriage, I started picking up on things that made me suspect Hillary wasn't exactly being loyal to me. Plus, at first, it was more about what I didn't hear. The guys at work would be talking in groups, but as soon as I got close, they'd clam up or drift away. One time, I walked into the men's room just as a conversation ended. All I caught was, seeing Hillary, before Ron and Bert noticed me, zipped up, and got out of there. I started paying closer attention to Hillary, but nothing seemed out of place. I chalked it up to maybe being paranoid. That is, until I decided to put in an intercom system in the conference room. See, different teams use the room for meetings, and I was tired of them running back to my office just to ask some small question. With the new intercom, they could just buzz me and I could answer without leaving my desk. After installing it, I ran a few checks. The last test was from the conference room to my office, and it worked fine, except I forgot to turn the thing off when I left. I was in my office, finishing up some paperwork, when I heard Steve, Mike, Al, and Joe come into the conference room. Mike wanted to know where Bob was, and Joe just laughed. Where do you think? He's trying to set something up with Hillary while Chuck's out of town tomorrow. There was no confusion about who they meant. After all, I'm the only Chuck at the company, and I was the only one married to a Hillary, plus I was heading out on a business trip the next day. Why aren't you trying? Mike asked Joe. I did, but she said she wanted to try someone different. They all cracked up at that. Then Al said, guess that means I won't be getting any for a while. I wonder if Chuck even gets any? Mike said, and Al chimed in, when would she even find the time? They all laughed again. Just then Bob walked in and asked what was so funny. We were just wondering if Chuck ever gets to spend time with his wife. Bob replied, I don't know about Chuck, but I know who'll be keeping her company tomorrow. You're something else, Al said. Steve jumped in, get ready for something wild. What do you mean, wild? Someone asked. She likes to get a thrill out of talking to Chuck on the phone while she's with someone else. No way. Seriously, man. You think Chuck knows? Not a chance. Hillary always makes sure that everyone she's involved with doesn't let anything slip. She's strict about it. If she even thinks Chuck is suspicious, it's over for all of us. You'll hear her whole speech tomorrow, right before anything happens. And just so you know, if you mess this up for the rest of us, we'll make sure you regret it. Right, guys? They all responded in agreement, throwing in a few colorful phrases for good measure. Then Mike said, all right, back to business. What are we doing about? That's when I turned off the intercom and took the tape from the recorder, slipping it into my briefcase. Plus, one thing about me, I'm not clueless. I didn't sit there thinking, oh, this can't be. She loves me, I'm sure of it. That's just not my style. If one guy had mentioned something, maybe it'd be wishful thinking, but when 5 guys are talking about what they've already done, you don't pretend it's just a misunderstanding. What really stung was that these guys were supposed to be my friends. We went fishing together, took trips to Vegas on the weekends, and played poker at my place every other Friday. Some friends, huh? Then there was Hillary. What had happened between us? How did things go downhill so quickly? Maybe she only married me for the money, marrying the boss to have a secure future? At that point, I wasn't sure, and honestly, I didn't care to find out. All I needed was proof, and once I had it, Hillary wouldn't know what hit her. Plus, the next evening, while I was in San Francisco, I called home like I always did. When Hillary picked up, she sounded a bit out of breath. I wasn't really paying attention to what she said, I was too busy listening for any background noise. I thought I heard some heavy breathing, and maybe a sound that didn't quite fit. My guess? Someone was having a little too much fun on the other end. Hillary and I made the usual small talk, told each other we loved each other, and hung up. I figured, well, I hope Bob is enjoying himself, because things aren't going to end well for him. When I got home, Hillary was waiting for me in my favorite outfit, just a pair of high heels and nothing else. She asked if I wanted a drink or if I'd rather just head upstairs. I have to admit, Hillary was great in bed, and I knew I'd miss that. But I'm a practical guy, I didn't see any reason to start missing her before she was actually gone. So I dropped my briefcase and started to undress. That night went on for quite a while, and she pulled out all the stops, almost like she wanted to make it impossible for me to let her go. The next morning, as I left for work, I thought again about how much I'd miss her. Plus, that Friday was poker night at my house. We always played there for a simple reason, I could never handle my liquor. I love to drink and always have a good time, right up until the moment I pass out. Once that happens, I'm out cold and nothing wakes me up. So, the routine was, we'd all gather at my place, play cards until I crashed, and then my so-called friends would lay me on the couch, finish up the game, and head out. On poker nights, Hillary always claimed she couldn't stand being around a bunch of noisy guys, so she'd go shopping or catch a movie. Up until a week ago, I had no reason to doubt her story. But now, I had my doubts. It made sense that if she liked sneaking around on the phone with me in the house, she'd probably get an even bigger thrill sneaking around with the guys while I was right there, passed out. So on Thursday, while Hillary was at her regular hair appointment, I went home and set up a couple of remote-controlled cameras, hiding the remotes under the couch cushions, then headed back to work. Friday rolled around, and by 7 o'clock, the guys started showing up. By a quarter after, we were all at the table and ready to play. Hillary came in, gave me a kiss, said she'd see me in the morning, and left for the movies. "This is gonna be a great night, fellas," I said. "I can feel it." I cracked open a new deck of cards and we cut for the deal. I drew the ace of spades. Must be a sign, boys. Get your wallets ready. I reminded everyone of the house rules, 3 raises, no check and raise, $5 limit, dealer's choice. I called for 5-card draw, jacks or better to open, and dealt the cards. When I picked up my hand, I couldn't help but grin. I had 3 jacks and 2 duds. Al, sitting to my left, passed. Mike passed, then Steve opened with $1. Joe raised $1 and Bob folded. "Looks like it's my lucky night," I said, raising $5. Al tossed his hand, and the rest called. Mike took 1 card, so I figured he was aiming for a straight or a flush. Steve took 3, probably holding a high pair. Joe drew 2, which made him tough to read, could be 3 of a kind or just bluffing with a high pair. I tossed in my 2 duds and got 2 more duds. Mike checked, Steve bet $1, Joe called. That told me Joe probably didn't get what he needed. I raised $5, Mike and Steve folded, and Joe called. I showed my 3 jacks and Joe threw his hand in, muttering, "Figures." I raked in the pot and laughed, "My night, guys, just hand over your money now." My go-to drink at poker night was always a vodka tonic with a wedge of lime, or at least that's what it looked like. In reality, it was just water in my glass. I'd down my drink, and whenever my glass got low, I'd ask the guys if they wanted refills, then head to the kitchen, fill up on water again, and bring their drinks back with a smile. Luck was on my side that night, I was winning 1 out of every 4 hands. To the guys, I was the usual good time Charlie, laughing, telling stories, and pretending to get tipsy, even though I was stone cold sober. About 3 hours into the game, right in the middle of a losing hand, I went ahead and did my best pass-out routine. Al got up and shook me a little, but I kept still. "He's out," Al said. "Come on, help me get him onto the couch." Steve came over to give him a hand, while Mike pulled out his cell phone and made a call. "He's out," he said into the phone, then turned to the group, "All right guys, she'll be here in about 10 minutes. Let's finish this hand. We might even get another one in before she arrives." Bob, who was new to our group, looked a little confused. "So, what do we do about Chuck?" he asked. "Nothing," Al told him. "Chuck is the key to making all this work for us." Bob shook his head, "I'm not following." "Just wait and watch, Bob. You'll see." 10 minutes later, Hillary came in through the front door. As it closed behind her, I quietly reached under the cushion for the remote that controlled the camera aimed at the living room. Hillary took one look at me sprawled out and groaned, guys, come on. Do we have to go through this every time? You know you're supposed to set him up on the couch so it looks like he's watching TV. Steve and Bob helped prop me up so I looked like I was just sitting and zoning out in front of the screen. Then, as the night wore on, Hillary took the lead and got the group's attention. The guys cut cards to see who would get her attention first. Al won, and Hillary asked, "What'll it be tonight?" He gave her a grin and whispered his preference. Hillary went along, and through half-closed eyes I could see her glancing my way, as if to make sure I was really out. Al played along with her little act, while the others watched. Hillary kept up this running commentary about what was happening, talking loud enough for the room to hear, throwing in jabs about me just sitting there. This routine went on for a while as each guy took their turn. Hillary kept up the monologue, acting like she was putting on a show for my benefit. The guys joined in, tossing around banter, while Hillary egged them on, all part of some bizarre performance. After they'd all had their turn, Hillary told the guys to move me into the bedroom, just like they'd practiced before. As they carried me in, I discreetly pressed the remote for the camera I'd set up there earlier. They arranged me in a chair so it looked like I was watching from the corner, and the whole group continued their routine, switching partners, acting out scenes, and generally putting on a show that seemed more for each other than for me. For the next couple of hours, they all took part in Hillary's act, and all the while she kept up her performance, talking about how much she loved the attention, telling them to give Chuck's wife what she needs, and so on. After 2 hours, I'd heard more than enough. Then, as if it was fate, Hillary called out, "Oh, I wish you could see this, Chuck," as the act hit its climax. That was my cue. I stood up and said, "I'm not God, Hillary, but I can sure make your wish come true." The look on her face was pure shock. She went pale. I didn't even bother glancing at my so-called friends. I just said, loud enough for the whole room to hear, "Y'all have a good time. I'm heading to the den to start the paperwork to terminate 5 soon-to-be ex-employees and 1 soon-to-be ex-wife." Then I turned around and walked out. Plus, within 5 minutes, I started hearing the front door opening and closing as folks made their exit. About 20 minutes later, Hillary came into the den, wearing nothing but an old robe. She sat on the couch and quietly watched me work on my computer. I didn't acknowledge her at first. After a few awkward minutes, she finally spoke up. "You're not really going to divorce me, are you?" "Yeah, Hillary, I am. It'd be a lot cheaper for both of us if you didn't. If you divorce me, I'll have to get a lawyer, and you know how those things go, you'll end up taking me to the cleaners. If we don't divorce, no lawyers, and neither of us loses out." "Why do you want to stay, then?" "Because I love you," she said. I couldn't help but laugh a little. "Right, that was pretty clear tonight. You just didn't understand what you saw." "Oh, I understood, all right. I saw you spend hours with 5 of my supposed friends, disrespecting me the whole time." "So what?" she said, almost defiantly. "What do you mean, so what? I didn't mean a word of it, and you should know that by now. This isn't the first time. After all those other poker nights, did you ever notice any distance between us? No, right? I always went out of my way to be close to you. I love you, Chuck, but I just need more than one man can give. I talk like that to fire up the guys. When you go out of town, sometimes I have someone over, but it's never about disrespecting you, it's just for the thrill, to keep things going. That's all it is, Chuck, just physical. I love you. I don't care about any of them. It doesn't change anything, Hillary. I might be old-fashioned, but I still believe my wife should be mine, and only mine. Once that stops being the case, I'm done." She tried pleading, "Don't do this to yourself. I won't go quietly. The guys like being with me, and even if you fire them, they'll still back me up in court. It'll be 6 against 1, and we'll all swear you were drunk out of your mind and imagine the whole thing. Just let it go, Chuck. Let me try to prove to you that I love you. You say you love me, but you're willing to go to court, lie under oath, and make me out to be some crazy drunk? That doesn't sound like love, Hillary. It's the only leverage I have to try to stop this divorce. I don't want to do this, but if I push hard enough, maybe you'll back down. Sorry, Hillary, but in my eyes, you've crossed the line." "All right, Chuck, but don't say I didn't warn you." "Okay, Hillary, message received. Just make sure you're out of the house by the end of the day." While she was in the shower, I gathered up the cameras and brought them into the den. I played back the recordings, clear as day, with everyone easily identified. I slept in the guest room that night. The next morning, I left early for my usual Saturday golf game. After 18 holes, I came home, and Hillary was gone. With Hillary out of the house, I sat down at the kitchen table and made myself a list of everything I needed to take care of first thing Monday morning. I spent the rest of my weekend going room to room, gathering up anything and everything that belonged to her, packing it all in boxes, and stacking it in the garage. I made 3 backup copies of the videos I had from that disastrous poker night, then locked every tape away in the safe in my den. Monday rolled around, and I wasted no time letting Bob, Joe, Al, Mike, and Steve go. As soon as they were out, I started the long process of finding new people to replace them. Later that afternoon, I called up our company lawyer and asked him to recommend a solid divorce attorney. 2 days later, I was sitting in that attorney's office, telling him everything. I handed over the 2 original tapes and made it clear I wanted to keep them under wraps as long as possible. I also filled him in on what Hillary had threatened, how she planned to get my ex-friends to stand by her in court and lie about everything. Honestly, I wanted them to try it so I could watch them get caught in the act and face charges for perjury. True to her word, Hillary didn't make things easy for me. She figured that if she never got served the divorce papers, then the divorce couldn't happen, so she vanished. For 6 months, there wasn't a word from her. Then, out of the blue, I got a phone call. "Have you finally come to your senses? Miss me yet? Don't you realize I love you, and I don't want a divorce? Come on, honey, let's talk this out. I know we can work it out." I was ready to hang up, but then a thought hit me. You know, Hillary, you're right. I do miss you. But after everything you did, I just don't see how we could ever put things back together. That's exactly why we need to talk, honey. All right, Hillary. When and where? Can't I just come home? I'm not sure about that. Please, sweetheart? I hesitated, then said, well, I suppose it wouldn't hurt to try. When do you want to come over? How about tonight? The sooner, the better. All right, tonight then, but I'm not making any promises. That evening, I watched from the front window as Hillary's car pulled into the driveway. I also kept an eye on the car that had been parked across the street. As soon as Hillary stepped onto the sidewalk, a man from that car approached her and handed her the divorce papers. She looked stunned, and after he walked away, she came up to the front porch. I met her at the door, and she waved the papers in my face, saying, "That was cold." "It got the job done," I replied. "So you're not even going to talk to me? There's nothing left to say that we haven't already said. Doesn't it mean anything to you that I love you and don't want this divorce?" "No, Hillary. You said it yourself the night I caught you. You told me you needed more than any 2 or 3 men could give. I can't stay married to someone I can't trust. Sure, I miss you, but that doesn't change the fact that you betrayed me, not just once, but with a bunch of guys I called friends. I could never trust you again, and I can't build a life with someone I can't trust." She got a little angry then. "If you don't pull those divorce papers, Chuck, I'll ruin you. I don't want to, but if you push this, I'll do what I have to do." I kept my voice calm. "Let me make this clear, Hillary. If you walk into that courtroom with those guys and lie, I'll make sure every one of you pays for it. All losing their jobs cost them was a paycheck. But if they get on that stand and lie for you, they'll have much bigger problems." She started to say something else, but I just closed the door. Plus. After that, Hillary hired herself a lawyer, and the legal battle began. Her attorney made demands, mine pushed back, and for a while it was just a back and forth with neither side budging. Eventually, we ended up in court. I told my side of the story, then Hillary and the 5 guys got up and told the version she'd threatened. The judge said it sounded like a classic he said, she said except, in this case, she had backup and I didn't. That's when my lawyer stood up and said, "Actually, Your Honor, we have all the backup we need," and produced the tapes, plus several printouts of stills from the videos and the audio recording from the conference room. The judge called us, both attorneys, Hillary, and me, into his chambers and really let us have it for dragging all this into court. "You had these tapes the whole time and didn't disclose them? We could have avoided this whole circus." I interrupted, "Your Honor, I wouldn't let my lawyer tell anyone. I wanted the truth out in the open. I wanted everyone to see what Hillary and my former friends really are, and the only way to do that was to let them lie under oath and then show the truth." The judge called a recess, and as soon as I left the courtroom, I made a phone call. That afternoon, a messenger delivered copies of everything I had to the wives of the 5 guys and to Hillary's entire family, her parents, siblings, and even her grandparents. Plus. That was 3 months ago, and the divorce is finally done. Hillary walked away with nothing but her maiden name. Somehow, Steve managed to patch things up with his wife, but the other 4 guys ended up in divorce court themselves, and they aren't going to come out of it nearly as well as I did. As for Hillary, the only thing I've heard from her since then was a furious phone call the day after court, when she called me every name in the book. How could you stoop so low as to send that stuff to my family? I told her straight, I warned you. I said if you lied in court, I'd ruin you. You should have known I meant it. You lied, and I made sure you paid for it. Then I hung up. Now she's out of my life, and you'd think I'd be happy, but for some reason, I can't stop thinking about her. Why do I still feel so miserable?